Hey guys, and welcome back to another compilation style video. This one is going to be on every time an MLB player behaved in a manner that was shockingly lazy in 2025. Now, since these are previously recorded videos, there may be some stats or narratives that I outline that seem a little outdated, but that shouldn't affect the content within, which does exist in a relative vacuum. With that in mind, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Listen, we all understand some guys not busting it down the line on fairly inconsequential plays, right? It doesn't mean much if Jazz Chisholm isn't going 110% in an 8-1 game in the 7th inning. But what about when your team is just coming off of one of the worst stretches in franchise history, in a contest that's still well within reach, right after making a consequential mistake? This is the situation Jake Fraley of the Reds was in just the other day, and it was truly ugly. In the bottom of the 5th, in a 7-2 game with the bases loaded, Fraley worked a 1-1 count before lining a slider low and inside into right field. It would be then that Fraley would approach the ball before seeing it go under his mitt, and then in an action that has offended many in Reds fan circles, proceeded to just leisurely jog after it, going at maybe 70% speed as Fraley romped around the bases, allowing him to get to third and all 3 runs to score, suddenly turning this into a highly competitive 7-5 game. To add a little context to this play, the Reds were coming off of a run of 35 consecutive scoreless innings snapped just the game before, when they only scored 2 en route to their 4th consecutive loss. So, with this being their first real time having any offense in about a week, it just felt off to see a guy not give his all on defense to back it up, helping to evaporate a huge portion of their cushion in the process. While the Reds would go on to win this one 11-7, this still stands as one of the uglier low-effort plays we've seen so far this season, and perhaps to make matters worse in retrospect, they would drop their next contest 8-2, bringing their record to an ugly 3-7 to begin their season. Now, I want to know what you guys think. Do you consider a play like this acceptable, or do you think in that circumstance he needs to go after that ball with everything he's got? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I've been debating all day today on whether or not I wanted to make a video about the actions of Juan Soto yesterday, because I've seen so many people talking about it online, and I honestly don't want to add to a narrative that I think might be a bit overblown. But after examining the footage on a couple different plays, as well as seeing a couple takes that I thought were valid on the whole situation, I decided I'd go ahead and talk about it, with it being the fact that Juan Soto probably just had his single laziest contest as a member of the Mets. Things got started in the first when Aaron Judge hit this fly ball down the right field line, a ball that had an expected batting average of just 166. You heard me correctly, 166, but due to the fact that Soto was just kinda lackadaisically sauntering after it, it ended up dropping in and then bouncing out of the field of play for a ground rule double. And yeah, obviously the guy's not a good fielder, this is known, but it didn't end there, as later in the contest with the score tied 2-2 in the top of the 8th, he would be up versus Devin Williams, taking a weak swing on a 1-1 pitch, in the process grounding it weakly up the middle. DJ LeMahieu then made a nice sliding stop before fumbling with the ball, yet still having enough time to flip it to first to get the lefty. How is this even possible, you might ask? Well, not only did he not hustle out of the box, but even after seeing LeMahieu was fumbling with it, he still didn't turn on whatever jets he had to try to reach. There was obviously that moment with the grand slam in the bottom of the inning as well, but honestly I don't think that was really a lack of effort, more so just bad timing. I will admit he certainly looked discouraged after the play, but that's not necessarily atypical considering the magnitude of the moment. The last thing I see as relevant I want to bring up was from this post on Twitter by 4 Trained Savages, which does a good job of summarizing my last angle, even if the original intention of it was a little troll. He just didn't have any swag all series, something he had in spades last season. At the time, I think this strongly helped make up for the fact that he does have some of these lackadaisical plays sometimes. I don't know exactly what's up with him right now, but I do hope he's able to get it figured out soon enough. As being a general baseball fan without a horse in the New York versus New York race, I'd personally really like to see him have a strong first impression for the Mets, as he attempts to embark on his decade-and-a-half quest to make that gargantuan, historic contract worth it. I made a video earlier this season talking about how Jake Fraley of the Reds let a ball get past him with the bases loaded, and then just sauntered after it, making no real effort to hustle to mitigate the damage, resulting in the hitter, Fraley, getting all the way to third base, and all 3 runs scoring. But at least he did go after the ball, right? That might sound like a funny thing to say, considering you'd assume that's the bare minimum, but O'Neal Cruz of the Pittsburgh Pirates just proved that there's a level even below what Fraley did, when the 6'7" center fielder not only let a ball get past him on the second hit of the game, but then didn't even go after it at all. Mike Burrows delivered a fastball outside to Sam Haggerty, who crushed it into center field, where O'Neal committed the fundamental error of playing it off to his side, allowing it to skip past him and head towards center field. But like I just said a couple seconds ago, he wouldn't follow this up with even a cursory effort to go get the ball. He just turned into a statue in center field, watching like a spectator as 26-year-old rookie Billy Cook hustled after it, attempting to keep Haggerty from rounding the bases completely, which he did successfully, but not before the lefty got to third base. Just look at the face that Burrows made while looking out towards Cruz after the play. You can tell he was pissed, and rightfully so. And to make matters worse, it would be consequential in that inning, because just 2 pitches later, Corey Seager would take a changeup in the dirt, with the ball skipping past catcher Joey Bart, allowing the run to score and irritating an already peeved Don Kelly. And this wouldn't even be the Pirates' only instance of fielding ineptitude in this contest, as leading off the 7th, Marcus Semien would send this fly ball to deep left center field, with Alexander Canario and O'Neill Cruz colliding as they attempted to field it off the wall, with Canario then slipping and having to flip the ball to Cruz, who, thankfully for Pittsburgh, was able to rifle in a missile to keep Semien at third. With how fast both of them got there, there's no way that should have been a triple, or at least not that easily. In case you couldn't tell by just the vibes of this game, they would indeed go on to lose by a final score of 6-2, with, somewhat appropriately, O'Neill Cruz being the one to end it on a bouncer to the first baseman. At least he ran that one out. With this loss, the Pirates fell to 30-47, 16 games out of first place in the NL Central, and 11.5 back from a wildcard spot, in what really appears to be another lost season in the Steel City. I literally just came out with a video earlier today discussing the Yankees' disheartening loss yesterday that prompted their own announcers to say that it was, quote, like a Little League game out there, and that they keep digging themselves deeper and deeper. But at least there wasn't any major mental lapses in this contest. But you couldn't say the same about the game today, which featured one of the laziest plays I've seen on an MLB field this season, and in a truly unique way. Jazz Chisholm was leading off the top of the second with his team down by a run, taking a close pitch for ball 4. After an out, Paul Goldschmidt came to the plate, and on an 0-2, popped a fastball into shallow right field, with second baseman Xavier Edwards out to grab it. But right as he went to secure it, he suddenly sped up his movements before firing to first base, somehow nabbing Chisholm off the bag for an inning-ending double play. I want you to take a look at his body language here from this angle. Just completely disconnected, and he doesn't lock back in to realize what's going on until it's way too late, resulting in one of the more unnecessary outs you'll ever see. And it probably couldn't have come at a worse time, as just an inning prior, New York had seen Trent Grisham get thrown out at home plate by maybe 40 feet, on this ball that was lined into left field off the bat of Giancarlo Stanton, with Trent not even being all the way to third base by the time Kyle Stowers released it. Both of these moments would come back to bite them big time, as they wouldn't manage to scratch out even a single run in this one, losing by a final score of 2-0 after their own former prospect, Agustin Ramirez, crushed 2 solo home runs. If last night was their worst loss of the season, then this one just added insult to injury. Now, before we go, I want to throw in a little mini breakdown as well of this base running play in the Angels game yesterday that saw the tying run not be able to score in the 7th because a base runner was unnecessarily going for third, making the last out there on a play so egregious it prompted Nolan Shanwell, the hitter who had come through, to literally start screaming, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" immediately after. If Jazz's play was a lack of effort, this one was a lack of brains. I made a video a little while back discussing this play from O'Neill Cruz, when he let a ground ball get past him in the outfield, and then just stood there, unmoving. This is maybe the most egregious example of a lazy play I've seen in recent history, but at least it wasn't at an extremely consequential point in the game, right? It was the first inning after all. And as I'm sure most people watching will agree, context matters when it comes to hustle. For example, if I was a fan of their respective teams, I would not be nearly as frustrated with this play from Ronald Acuna Jr. in a game his team was up handedly late, as this one from Jake Fraley with the bases loaded in the middle of a game. It's with this spectrum in mind that my attention was brought to a play in a game yesterday between the Dodgers and Brewers, when lazy, inattentive base running cost LA a chance to tie things up at the last possible moment in the middle of an extremely difficult stretch. There were 2 outs in the 9th inning when rookie Dalton Varsho sent a slider dribbling back towards the middle of the field, with shortstop Joey Ortiz making a nice play to even get to the ball before firing it to first. There, a good throw somehow went off the mid of Andrew Vaughn and trickled away. Now in this moment, you'd probably think the game was going to be tied, right? I mean, not only was the ball slowly hit, but it got pretty decently far away from the first baseman. But unfortunately for the Dodgers, base runner Andy Pajes wasn't running hard around third, with this look here being pretty damning in this regard, just kind of pulling up and then thinking about it later. Now, obviously it doesn't look as aesthetically bad as what Cruz pulled, but in a way it's almost worse to me. With 2 outs in the 9th, you have to have your head up there to examine what's going on, especially in the middle of a non-traditional play. After all, an overthrow or off-target one-hopper is way more likely when the play is as hard as what Ortiz was trying to make, and not anticipating a bad throw enough to at least round the base is just inexcusable, and as it turns out, highly consequential, as Mookie Betts would then line out to end the contest. And the optics look even worse when you consider the Dodgers had already made 3 separate errors during starter Clayton Kershaw's appearance earlier in the same game, prompting him to give this reaction after he exited. This is the same sloppy brand of baseball they've been playing over the last 11, during which they went just 2-9. Earlier this season, I made a video about this play from O'Neal Cruz when he let a routine ground ball get past him in center field, then basically refused to go after it, in a moment that was downright shocking. But one thing you have to give him, at least to some degree, is that it was early on in the contest, not in a relatively big moment, for whatever that's worth. The only reason I even bring this up is because we just saw a moment yesterday that was similar, when a player who had spent just 24 career innings in center field messed up a routine play, and then just jogged after it so casually that it basically gifted the hitter a free base late in a close game. Luis Rengifo had begun that nice contest for the Angels on the bench, but would pinch hit for rookie Brian Teodosio in the 7th inning, managing to draw a walk in the process. After being stranded at first, he would then trot out to center field to start the top of the 8th, a move from manager Ray Montgomery that was certainly interesting, considering the fact he'd only spent parts of 5 games out there before. And wouldn't you know it, on the very first batter of that frame, he would be tested, with Cincinnati's Key Brian Hayes lining this ball to center field, basically directly at him. But a bad break in and then back meant that ball was going over his head. But that's not what I want to talk about, instead being his reaction to messing this play up, as he basically jogged after it at less than 50% of his speed capacity, allowing Hayes, who has just a 47th percentile sprint speed of 27.2 feet per second, to get all the way to third. Seriously, just look at that. If he jogged around the bases like that on a home run, it would be one of the longest trots of the year. And like I alluded to before, to make matters worse, this was in a 3-1 ball game, meaning the Angels certainly had a chance to come back in this one. But after the very next batter flew a ball to, perhaps appropriately, Luis in center, Cincinnati's cushion had grown to 3, and they would indeed end up taking this one by that final score of 4-1, dropping them to now 5 games under 500. To me, what makes this even worse, as somebody who was actually watching this live, was the effort that his own pitcher, Carson Fulmer, showed right after the sac fly, literally diving off the mound to corral this ground ball before firing it perfectly to first. If he was willing to lay that much on the line for his team, I don't know why Rengifo couldn't have given at least 50% effort. Also, something I wanted to point out before this video ended was Ke'Brien's own reactions to the play immediately following. It almost looked like he was chuckling/smiling at what he had just saw, which I honestly can't say I blame him. It was a goofy looking play. But it just goes to show how embarrassing that moment truly was, when you have a fellow player reacting like this. Teoscar Hernandez had a horrible year defensively in 2025, being tied for the 5th worst defensive outfielder in Major League Baseball in fielding run value at -9, while at one point literally getting directly called out by one of the nicest managers in the game, Dave Roberts.
Yeah, that's just a tough one. I mean, he's got to get better out there, and there's just no way to put it.
And it didn't help that his offense wasn't all that great either, with the veteran posting his worst OPS ever for a full season at .738. However, he didn't let any of that affect him in the wildcard round when he crushed a couple homers, seemingly resetting the narrative as the Dodgers looked to repeat as World Series champions. But there was a moment yesterday that made the entire baseball world question not only his fielding mechanics, but his commitment overall to the team, even if later on he would redeem this in spades. Facing Philadelphia in the first game of the NLDS, Teoscar was in right field when Shohei Ohtani put 2 guys on in the 2nd inning after a walk to Alec Boehm and single by Brandon Marsh. This brought JT Realmuto to the plate, looking to give his team the lead, and he would do just that on the 1-0, lining a fastball right down the middle into the right center field gap. A ball that Teoscar raced over to cut off and then just pulled up at the last second, letting it get past him and go all the way to the wall, creating an easy opportunity for the still speedy catcher to get all the way to third base, almost scoring as a relay throw got away. The question that immediately had to be asked following this play was, what the hell was Hernandez doing? Why would you pull up and just start walking with the ball in your vicinity in one of your team's biggest games of the year? If he would have slid or something, he probably still could have kept the veteran catcher at just 2, instead of an easy triple. Even the TNT broadcast couldn't believe that ball made it all the way to the fence.
I was surprised right here, BA. Watch this in right center. Hernandez kind of at the end, I don't know if he took a bad angle on it, but this was a ball that I can't believe got all the way to the wall.
Just a horrible effort level from the veteran, and one that ended up turning into another run when Harrison Bader laced a sac fly to the track in left field. But that's the thing about the postseason that's so special. It gives players the stage to register the lowest of the low in terms of moments, but also the highest of the high, which is exactly what Teoscar would experience later on, as following Kike Hernandez, aka Playoff Barry Bonds, crushing a double to bring LA within 1. The big righty was up in the top of the 7th with 2 outs, after the Dodgers' 2 Hall of Famers in front of him had been retired. What would he do to shift the narrative? Well, how about on a 1-0, crushing a fastball center cut over the wall in right center field, giving his team the lead and a 2-run cushion. This also made him the first player in Major League history to have at least 3 home runs and 9 RBI in his team's first 3 games of a postseason. That would be all she wrote for Philadelphia, as Tyler Glasnow, Alex Vesia, and Roki Sasaki, who's been a revelation for them, managed to shut down the Philadelphia offense, not allowing another run after Ohtani departed in the middle innings. This put the 2024 champions just 2 wins away from getting back to the NLCS once again, as they attempt to go back-to-back in World Series wins for the first time for any team since 2000. Alright everybody, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching, and if you did, consider checking out any of these other videos on your screen right now for other content just like this. Also, if you ever see anything you'd like to see me detail in the video, feel free to reach out to my email, basebpoet@gmail.com, and if I end up using your idea, I'll give you a shout out. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.